I'm now reading analysis says Obama's Asia policy set back by Democrats. President Barack Obama's Asia policy took a hit this week, and it came from a member of his own party. The top Democratic Senator, Harry Reid, announced that he opposes legislation that's key for a Trans-Pacific Trade Pact that is arguably the most important part of Obama's efforts to strengthen America's engagement in Asia. Since Obama rolled out the policy, most attention has been on the military aspect, largely because it was described as a rebalance in U.S. priorities after a decade of costly war in Afghanistan and Iraq. But officials have increasingly stressed that Obama's foreign policy pivot to Asia is about more than cementing America's stature as a preeminent power in the Asia-Pacific as China grows in strength. It's about capitalizing on the region's rapid economic growth. That's the importance of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, an ambitious free trade agreement being negotiated by 12 nations, including Japan, that accounts for some 40% of global gross domestic product. The pivot is the TPP right now. Mr. Cha, Director of Asian Studies at Town University School of Foreign Service, told a conference at a Washington think tank this week on U.S. policy and the outlook for Asia in 2014. The Obama administration's Asia policy has been welcomed by countries wary of China's rise and expansive territorial claims. During the president's first term, the U.S. made progress in strengthening old alliances with nations like the Philippines, forging deeper ties with Indonesia and Vietnam, and befriending former pariah state Myanmar. There were mistakes. Angry politics at home forced Obama to withdraw from the East Asia summit that fall, raising some questions about his commitment to the region. New military deployments in the Asia Pacific, a few hundred Marines in Australia, new warships routed through Singapore have fueled Chinese accusations of a U.S. policy of containment while making little impact on regional security. Asia got little mention in Obama's State of the Union address Tuesday, adding to perceptions in some quarters that the pivot has dropped in the administration's policy agenda in the president's second term. But it did urge both parties in Congress to approve so-called fast-track legislation needed to make the TPP and a trade deal under negotiation with Europe a reality, saying it would open new markets and create American jobs. The problem for Obama is that many of his fellow Democrats are against fast-track authority, which could require Congress to act on a trade deal negotiated by the administration by a yes or no vote, without the ability to make any changes. Reid, The Senate Majority Leader said Wednesday that he opposed fast-track authority and that lawmakers should not push for it now. A comment suggesting that legislation introduced 3 weeks ago will go nowhere soon. While that legislation is co-sponsored by a senior Democrat, Obama's nominee to become the next ambassador to China, said Max Baucus. Many in the party join with labor unions in opposing lower trade barriers, which they worry will cause jobs due to increased competition. So in a bitterly divided Washington, Obama is in a rare opposition of having more support for a key policy among his political rivals, the Republicans, than from his own party. But top Republicans who want fast-track authority accuse the administration of failing to do its part to mobilize support for it among Democrats in Congress, a task that will be complicated by the midterm elections in November. Lawmakers will be careful to avoid measures that could hurt their prospects of re-election. In an emailed comment Friday, U.S. Trade Representative Michael Foreman remained upbeat about the TPP, saying that momentum developed to advance the TPP talks in 2013 is carrying over to 2014. He said the administration is working closely with Congress and is committed to bring home a deal worthy of broad support from the American people and their representatives in Congress. Ambassadors of Japan and Vietnam both said they want TPP negotiations to be completed before Obama visits Asia in April. Japan's told the Center of Strategic and International Studies this week that fast-track authority is needed because there are worries the U.S. will seek changes to the agreement. It also acknowledged challenges remain on auto and agricultural products between the biggest players in the TPP, the Japan and the U.S. The good news for Washington was that Japanese and Vietnamese envoys remained strongly supportive of the U.S. role in Asia, viewing it as a stabilizing influence in the region beset by territorial disputes. Those tensions have heightened fears of a conflict as China stakes its claims to contested islands in the East and South China Seas. State Department spokeswoman James Suzhou told reporters that from the president on down, the United States could not be more committed to our relationship with Asia, despite U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's deep involvement in high-stakes media diplomacy. This month he will make his fifth trip to the region since taking office a year ago. I'm now reading about Dissident Carbon blogger plans to launch digital paper. Dissident Carbon blogger says she plans to launch a digital newspaper in her homeland later a digital newspaper in her homeland later this year, hoping it will strike a blow for press freedom on the communist island. The prominent critic of Cuba's rulers, famed for her Generation Y blog, said she wanted her new project to raise awareness of information. It's not an anti-Castro media. It's a media grounded in reality with basic information, she said of the future newspaper. Cuba tightly regulates all media and regularly ranks near the bottom of the annual Press Freedom Index released by Reporters Without Borders each year. Cuba, this paragraph. Speaking during a visit to the Hay Festival in Colombian port city of Cartagena, acknowledged that any attempt to launch an official newspaper would likely meet the resistance. They could arrive on the first day, kick in the door, take everything away, and block our access to the internet. She said, but maybe we would be sowing the seeds of a free press. Was barred from traveling outside the island nation for many years by Cuban authorities. However, a change in the law last year allowed her to tour 13 countries in Europe and America. With those to 500,000 followers on Twitter and a blog translated into 15 languages, was ranked among the 100 most influential women in the world by the Time magazine in 2008. I'm now reading about Europe's big clubs keep quiet on deadline day. The much-hyped deadline day in Europe's January transfer window passed with a flurry of late deals, but few signings of note on Friday, with the richest teams opting to sit tight ahead of the last few months of the season. The likes of real and the giants decided not to dip into the market, while there were no headline-grabbing moves to match that of Brandon in 2011 and David Beckham to Paris Saint-Germain last year. The two of the most high-profile moves on Friday were loan signings. Italy striker to a leader and to French title hopeful said much about the largely subdued nature of the final day of the window. The biggest spender was Inter Milan, which bought Brazil midfielder from Lazio in a deal reportedly worth up to 15 million euros. Even the English Premier League, usually the place where big acquisitions are made, was quiet, with the standout deal saying take on loan from for the rest of the season to ease its midfield problems. Many European countries are still gripped by the economic recession, while the top targets of the big teams are often cup-tight for the Champions League, and managers can be put off by inflated prices. Even so, inspired deadline day signing can sometimes make the difference between winning the title, qualifying for the Champions League or Europe League, or surviving relegation. And it was a surprise to see so few big deals take place. 6 points clear in Serie A. In Serie A, Juventus is on course for a third straight Italian league title, and the signing of from South will strengthen its push for the championship. Everything happened very fast, said, and I still can't believe it. Ford scored 4 times for South after his club recorded €50.1 million from Roma in August, but was suspended for 2 weeks on January 23rd, following a training ground incident. Has the option to buy the 28-year-old before May 31 for €19 million. Elsewhere in Italy, left Lazio's training ground in tears on Thursday amid reports he was on the verge of signing for Inter, and the move was complete the following day in a 4.5-2-year deal. He has scored 2 goals in 23 appearances for Brazil and helped his country to Confederations Cup success. Last summer, Inter is 5th in the league, 11 points off the Champions League places, and it is 8-year stint in England, where he played for and most recently to become the latest big name signing by Monaco. I'm happy, excited, and a little bit nervous, to be honest. The 33-year-old said, "I'm looking forward to training with my new teammate and to open a new chapter in my career." Monaco is challenging fellow big spender Paris Saint-Germain for the French title and needed to sign a striker to compensate for Colombia striker long-term injury. Falcao is expected to miss the rest of the season after tearing a ligament in his left knee on January 2012. In England, Chelsea ended the month as the division's top spenders, nearly £50 million on 4 players, after signing 19-year-old St. Etienne defender. He was immediately loaned him back to the French club until this summer. The late deals were almost exclusively done by clubs battling to avoid relegation from the world's richest league, with next to last bringing in 3 players and Crystal Palace signing 5. It took the spending of Premier League clubs in this season to more than £700 million, a new record. In Spain, brought back midfield on loan from until the end of the season to strengthen its Spanish league title push, with the team level on points with leader and the most eye-catching deals in Germany were signing of midfielder from and purchase of attacking midfielder from Well, it's really weird, doesn't it? Isn't it? I'm now reading about French president who runs over EU planes. French President Francois dealt a blow Friday to Prime Minister David Cameron's hopes of renegotiating Britain's membership of the EU before a referendum in 2017, saying treaty change was not a priority. At an French summit held at an airbase in west of London, indicated he might be open to treaty change in the future to ensure the Eurozone was better coordinated. But he noted that any major treaty change could require a referendum in France, and said, "We feel that revising the treaty is not a priority for the time being." Under pressure from Eurosceptics in his Conservative Party, has promised to renegotiate Britain's position in the EU and put the New Deal to a referendum after the next election in 2015. Told the Joint Press Conference that he perfectly respected Britain's right to hold a vote, but said, "We can't impose the British choice on Europe." Said he remained optimistic of achieving the changes. He wanted the British officials that the fact France is even considering treaty change is progress. The Prime Minister said, "My position absolutely remains that we want to see those changes. We want that renegotiation. That renegotiation will involve elements of treaty change, and then there will be a referendum in Britain before the end of 2017. He later revealed he is prepared to invoke a rarely used law in order to force through Parliament a bill guaranteeing an in or out referendum in Britain by 2017, after the upper house of Lords killed off legislation backed by his Conservatives. Said his party will reintroduce the bill once the next parliamentary session begins in May, and he pledged to invoke the Parliament Act, which enforced the supremacy of the lower house of Commons, if it is blocked by the Lords again. And continue their debate about EU reform during a convivial lunch at the nearby Swan Inn, a riverside pub dating back to 1885, which has featured in hit TV series Downton Abbey, British officials said. Despite their political differences, the two leaders used their first summit since election in 2012 to further cement bilateral cooperation on defense, nuclear energy, and space exploration. The most uncomfortable moment came when a British journalist asked about his recent separation from his partner, following media reports that he was having an affair with an actress. "Do you think your private life has made France an international joke? Are you still having an affair with and do you wish she was here?" the reporter asked. To which Hallow replied, "I will not answer." Disagree on an EU treaty, but sought to emphasize their shared goals to improve growth, create jobs, and build a more efficient Europe. The conservative prime minister praised the socialist president's recent move to boost the struggling French economy by cutting business taxes and reducing red tape, saying this was the right way to boost investment and create jobs. Cameron also praised the Frenchman's courageous and determined leadership in Mali and the Central African Republic, promising further logistical support from Britain for the latter mission. The summit was held at the Royal Air Force, also known as RAF, base at Brize Norton, the base for British C-17 transport planes helping with the French operations in Africa. The two leaders spread the biting code to inspect British and French military kits at the base. In 2010, Britain and France signed the Landmark Agreement on Defense and Security Cooperation, and on Friday, they announced further progress. In the shadow of a Park's RAF A330 Voyager plane, ministers signed agreements to jointly purchase anti-ship missiles for use on naval helicopters and to launch a feasibility study into jointly producing an armed drone. Head of defense at the Franco-British Council think tank said there was no sign that London and Paris political arguments were disrupting their pragmatic partnership on defense. The relationship is in difficulty, but their defense partnership is safe from any misunderstanding, she told AFP. Tank. I'm now reading about the classic Israel concerned at growing boycott threat. Israeli government and business leaders are armed by a growing international boycott movement, and the likely effect of EU measures against exports from Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank. Cabinet ministers are to meet next week to hammer out a strategy against the growing international campaign to boycott trade linked to settlements. Newspaper reported Friday, and a group of top Israeli business people has launched a publicity campaign urging Prime Minister Benjamin to make peace with the Palestinians for the sake of the economy. In the latest development, Norway's sovereign wealth fund blacklisted Thursday two Israeli companies involved in building settlements in Israeli-occupied East and U.S. actress stepped down as ambassador amid a storm over her ad campaign for a firm operating in a settlement in the occupied West Bank. These incidents highlight the creeping success of a campaign to boycott trade linked to settlements built on Palestinian land seized during the Six-Day War of 1967 and viewed by the international community as illegal. Meanwhile, the European Union recently moved to block all grants and funding to any Israeli entity operating beyond the 1967 lines, sparking growing alarm in Israel. Lars Fabrin Anderson, the EU's ambassador to Israel, told AFP last week that In addition to coordinated actions by the body, Israel's constant sentiment construction was fueling private moves to boycott products and services linked to the settlement.